So this time let's undock and see if we can get a little fighting going on. This is on my null-set character, so we could always end up getting some PvP, although the intel channel has been, well, actually it looks like two people just showed up in 7RM. Let's see what we got. Hmm. So first thing I'm going to do is go out on my interceptor and just kind of scope things out, see if we can probe out a fight. So I'm going to go ahead and click the undock button. You're always going to watch for timers up here in the upper left. If you aggress, you will be unable to dock or to use gates for a certain period of time, so you want to be careful of that. Other times, for example, if you use a jump bridge, those sort of things, you're going to have cooldowns that will affect some of your abilities to do different things, so you're going to want to be careful on that. Also, when you first jump through a gate, you're going to be stealth for a certain period of time, so you're going to want to watch that as well. Until you move or take an action, you will remain gate. So gate mechanics become kind of interesting and important, and we'll talk a little more about that later. It looks like my corp mates have a gate camp going on over here. I probably should join up the fleet and check it out. First, we're going to run through some of the asteroid belts, however. So if you right-click at an empty spot in space and look up asteroid belts, you can also do the same for planets, those types of things, but asteroid belts are the ones that are typically going to have rats. Or you can use your scanners to look up sites as well. Sites will often have enemies in them, and I'll show you those in a little bit. This first asteroid belt looks empty, so we'll go ahead and roll through to another one. Looks like some enemies in the system over. Oh, looks like we have an eliminator and a terrorist. That's a Garistas battleship and a destroyer. All right, they should make some good food. So let's go ahead and dock back up. And we'll come back in something a little more appropriate to fight them. So this is our Fortizar, or basically our main base in 7RM. It's a station that's owned by Pandemic Horde. In other words, it was built by the corporation. So only people that are flagged as allies are able to use the station and store stuff here. I do have quite a bit of inventory here, probably more than I should. But as you can see, I have a hangar full of ships. Go ahead and break that down. These are all the different ships I have. And I think we're going to go with the rattlesnake for this one. Uh, it's a pirate faction battleship. Should do pretty well against them. And let's go. Undock. I'm using Scourge missiles. That should be good. And let's go ahead and get back to that belt. Just scrolling through locals, just trying to make sure there aren't any hostiles around. I don't want anybody to come through and endanger my battleship. So keeping an eye on your intel channels is always a good idea when you're in LSAC. In fact, I probably should join Standing Fleet. I think you could intel that way too. So this ship is equipped with a drone link and several drone damage modules, drone damage amplifier modules. So it'll increase the amount of damage that my drones do, as well as 3 modules to increase my missile damage. So I am landing on grid. The technical overlay will give me an idea of how far away they are and what the technical situation looks like. I'm going to go ahead and launch my drones and go ahead and get target lock on these guys. There's the destroyer and the battleship. So my drones have already engaged the destroyer, so let's go ahead and take one. I'm going to fire up my adaptive invulnerability fields, which will help reduce the amount of damage that I'm taking. I'm going to hit my target painter, which will help by increasing the signature radius, make it easier for my missiles to hit the destroyer. And he's already a goner. So all that's left now is the battleship. I'm going to go ahead and hit him with my target painter too. And looks like he's jamming me, so he caused me to lose my target lock. But my drones were able to blow him up anyway. So we'll recall my drones. And do I have one that has the wreck on it? I guess I don't. Let's go ahead and see if we can loot that wreck. So some of the key things to take note of what I did there. I can use the middle mouse wheel to scroll out. This little button here turns on the tactical overlay, which will give you the distance meters in space. It'll also show you any motion that's occurring and then the angular velocity which is occurring, which comes into play, especially if you're using turret-based weapons. The angular momentum uh, plays a big factor in the amount of damage that you can do. The other thing you'll note here is the overview. There's a number of tabs. Each is filtered down to show different things depending on what I want. The first one is a travel tab, so it's typically going to have stations and stargates to make it quick for warping out. There is one also called Warp Out that includes a lot more stuff. It's going to include all your celestials like moons, asteroid belts, stars, those kind of things. And this is when you want to warp out in a random direction quickly. Any one of those things could make a good warp out place. And that's one of the things you're going to want to do, especially when you frequent systems and you're going to be fighting in them. You're going to want to set your own jump points in space or your safe points. You can set bookmarks in space, kind of the same way that you create contacts. If you click on the little people and places thing here that you use to create your contacts, and you go to the places tab, you'll see both personal and corporation locations if you have to be in if you happen to be in a corporation that has corporate safe spots and whatnot already bookmarked. So you'll see individual locations there that may show up, and you can click add location at any time to add a location, uh, add your current location to any one of your bookmarks. So I'm going to go ahead and loot some of these wrecks here. So again, you have the overview, which is going to show you based on what you have your overview filtered down to is going to show you different things. In the main combat one, you're going to want to have enemy ships show up. Uh, this particular overview was provided by the corporation, so they provided links for the configuration. And you can also export those. So one of these tabs is going to show you friendly ships. So that's going to be extremely invaluable if you're like a logistics pilot and need to be targeting friendly ships. If you're a DPS ship and you want to target enemy ships, it's probably not going to be that helpful to have friendly ships in your overview. So you want to set those appropriately. Then you have the selected item up here, and it's going to have a whole bunch of different actions that you can take to the particular selected item. The other way to do that is to hold down on the item by left clicking and hold down, and it'll bring up a radial menu like this. And they teach you that in the intro videos as well. You can use this to stop ship, use yours to set your default warp to, look at, those kind of things. You can also do that for your loot. If I hold it down, I'm going to get the loot button. Same here. I'm going to open cargo and go and loot those wrecks. Alright, so I apologize for a little bit of the silence there. Let's see if we can edit that out. Alright, so now that we've looted, we can, you'll notice if I right click in space here, the same way that I brought up the asteroid belts, you also have planets, stargates, stations, structures. You can get a quick list in space of any of those items. It's also showing the personal locations. Now, before when I showed you how to set a location in space, I've gone and done a bunch of these and named them appropriately. A lot of times what you want to do is set them 150 more off of a particular gates that gives you a safe spot to warp in around a gate. Let me show you, for example. So that you're at a safe distance of anybody that happens to be sitting on that gate cannot directly attack you or get a point on you, but you're close enough to kind of get a view there, and still far enough away that you can engage another warp drive and jump then from your safe spot to the gate if everything looks good. So we're just warping into a perch spot off the KLY gate here. Then we'll dip back into the asteroid belt. There were some newts in system. I might want to be careful. I'm going to go ahead and jump into standing fleet just in case. Alright, not seeing anything there. Let's drop in to another asteroid belt. So we'll try a couple more places. That's about it. And not much here either. Alright, so let's go ahead and dock back up. We can get into a faster ship to go probing out enemies. I'll switch to my interceptor.